Hi, everybody out there in the world. It's Carrie at OESD. Welcome back to the 23rd episode of the Perfect Tips and Tricks. I am happy to have you here with us on this Friday. Hope you can all join us. I love spending time with you here on our little corner of the world. Today, we are going to be talking to Kimberly again to finish up our Stabilizer Week presentation, hopefully with, we'll knock on wood, no technology issues. We also have our friend Tamara hiding in the background. She is going to be introducing next week's embroider along project. She'll tease a little bit just to get your appetites whetted. I don't know if that's how that works. I'm sure Tamara will tell me that I said that one wrong. So let's start here. Let me see if I can bring up Kimberly. Kimberly, there you are. Welcome. Oh, I cannot hear you yet. Nope. We've lost your sound.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. See, we cursed ourselves there.
You know, everything was going too well. So.
That's all right. That's all right. Welcome back. I'm excited about our Tearaway Day.
I know there's a lot of stuff in Tearaway, so there's a lot of information today.
That's all right. You got time, so I think we're ready for it. I'll let you know if we have any questions, but let's get on it.
All right. Let me pull up my screen here, and hopefully this is the right one. Okay. Oh, and it closed itself down. So there we go. Okay, can you see that okay?
We got it. Perfect.
All right, great. Okay, so let's talk about Tearaway Stabilizer. Just our reminder, the color coding. So today's our purple for Tearaway Day. And here's a little image of all the Tearaway stabilizers. So you can see there's actually quite a few. And so a little bit about Tearaway. This is the stabilizer we use when we want most of the excess gone, but we still want some stabilizer in our stitches to support them to keep our item looking nicer. It supports fewer stitches than cutaways, but it will support more stitches than a wash away. And we use Tearaway on woven fabrics, so we want to make sure we're using it on things that don't stretch. So some examples of those fabrics, your quilt cottons, the towels, backs of towels, and that would be terry cloth towels and dish towels. They would all be included in the Tearaway. Home deck items, linens, and then other things like, baseball hats, tote bags, and those types of projects that you might be doing. And so it gets its name from how it's removed. You tear it away with your hands. And so you want to tear away from the outside edges. If there's some, kind of small areas inside that are hard to get to, just leave those. You don't have to tear away every single bit of your stabilizer. You also, if you can see the picture that's there, notice how the person tearing it away is supporting the stitches with their fingers. You want to make sure you're doing that because that helps with distorting the design when you're done, keeps it looking nice. And then the other little helpful hint that we have is if you're using more than one layer of Tearaway, you want to remove one layer at a time. And that will also help with that distortion or you could damage or maybe pull a stitch or something if you're not careful. So let's get into our Tearaways. We're going to just kind of go down the line. So the first one we'll talk about is lightweight Tearaway. Lightweight you're going to want to use this when you have a very low stitch count design and a lightweight fabric. It's really easy to remove. It tears away really clean and crisp. So it tears away very easily because it's lightweight, but it's really nice if you are doing a project that you really want a nice, really clean tear. Another thing that, and I'm not a quilter, So I kind of had to ask a couple of my quilting friends, but it's great for paper piecing, and that would be like English paper piecing or foundation piecing. And from what I understand, you have to put some type of a stabilizer in there, and then you stitch around it, and then you tear it out, and this works great for that.
That was a good attempt at explaining paper piecing.
Oh, but I'm sure if you're out there and you do know how to do that, it probably would make a lot more sense to you.
Yes, the paper piecers out there in the world, we've used newsprint, and there's special paper that you can buy just for paper piecing, but the lightweight Tearaway is great for that. The other thing that you probably tell us this, but if you want to almost to do for garment tracing, like use it as a tracing paper as you would like to trace your garment patterns.
Right. Because it is because it's so lightweight, it's almost translucent, and so it's great for pattern making or something like that. But here you can see an example, the types of things that I would use it for. This is a kind of like an heirloomy type pillowcase that I got from some embroidery blank company. And I put the red work design on this, and it's just absolutely perfect because the design is light. This fabric feels very light. And so I don't have to worry so much about, either my design or my stabilizer or my fabric kind of outdoing each other at any time. It just really goes well together. And the other thing, because it tears away so easily, these are the kind of stitches that I really worry about getting distorted because it's just a running stitch. And so because it tears away so easily, you don't have to worry about that. So let's talk about heavyweight tearaway, kind of the opposite extreme. So heavyweight tearaway supports those really stitch intensive designs on your woven fabric. So we're talking a lot of stitches, and it's really crisp and stiff when you pull it off the roll. So it also, because of that, it kind of will stabilize some of softer fabrics that you might struggle with because it gives it some more firmness while it's embroidering. Great for stitching designs that have a lot of big open areas in the center of the design. So let's see some examples. I think probably the most common thing that I use heavyweight tearaway for is when I make the tiling scenes. Almost all of our tiling scenes are very stitch intensive, and our recipes, we usually tell you these are what the stabilizers that we recommend you use. Almost every tiling scene, heavyweight tearaway is somewhere involved. So if you're planning on making those, this is definitely a time you want to, when you're buying your supplies for your tiling scenes, probably get a roll of heavyweight tearaway with it.
Kimberly, I got a couple questions if you don't mind.
Oh, no, it's fine.
So does using 2 layers, and I think this is a tiling scene specific question, does it work the same if you hoop one piece of your tearaway and float the second? And if you can explain to some out there who don't know what floating means when you answer that question, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so when you're floating stabilizer, it's different than floating your project. So what you would do is you would hoop your fabric in one layer of stabilizer, but maybe you need a second layer of stabilizer. And so to float that, you would actually, once it's on the machine, you just slide the second layer of stabilizer under your hoop. And so the bed of the machine and the project are kind of keeping it sandwiched and keeping it in place. And so that's actually a really good question, because some of their tiling scenes we have, especially like the Starry Night, we tell you to fuse fusible woven to your fabric and then use 2 layers of heavyweight tearaway. And sometimes the 2 layers of heavyweight tearaway is just too much that your hoop won't hold it really securely because the hoop's just not strong enough. So in that situation, I actually think it's fine to float the second layer of tearaway, the heavyweight, underneath. As long as you're getting, I think, it's just, sometimes it's just too difficult because when you get those 2 layers of heavyweight tearaway plus some fabric, that's a long thickness.
Yeah, you need the 2 layers to create enough stabilization, but you only need one actually in the hoop potentially because the layer in the hoop is giving you a sturdy base. And then the second layer, which goes kind of underneath and then gets sort of stitched in as you go, that's giving your design more stability.
Right.
I hope that makes sense. Joyce asked that question.
And the other thing that I'll be honest that has happened to me is I've started a project thinking, oh, this is, I've got it stabilized, everything's going great. And I'll get, maybe, 50 stitches in and be like, you know what, this project needed more stabilizer. And that's when another piece just slides right in there underneath. And I don't have to unhoop, I don't have to restart over. I just, it's like, if I'm going to keep going with this project, it needs another layer of stabilizer.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can sort of change as you go. And before we move on, I just have a question from Evelyn. Evelyn wants to know how many layers you use on a cotton towel for Tearaway.
Most of the time, for most designs, I just use one.
Okay. I mean, that would have been what my guess was. But the answer for those questions is always kind of fun. How many layers? And it really depends. Always the answer is it depends on the design.
A lot of times that's all there is to it. And the kind of stabilizer, so maybe you ran out of heavyweight Tearaway, so you're going to use 2 layers of medium weight. And so, just because you're quarantined and you can't get the other.
Exactly.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, but no using saran wrap or no homemade stabilizers, please.
No coffee filters.
Yeah. I think you're good to carry on. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Okay. Oh, no, that's fine. So another example of something that is, and this sometimes surprises people, but heavyweight Tearaway works really great when you're embroidering on cardstock. And a lot of it is because it is removed so cleanly and crisp, so you don't have any, kind of frayed edges or anything, but it supports the designs really well when you're using cardstock. And I know we get a lot of questions. People want to embroider on cardstock, but this is the stabilizer that I use when I do cardstock. So our next one is our medium black Tearaway. So it's a medium Tearaway, and it's black, so we use it on our dark woven fabrics with our medium to high stitch count designs. It also tears away very crisp, nice, clean tears. So I really like it for that. And so you're really, when you're using this, you're really thinking of projects that are on darker fabrics. This is my garden flag, and these are the only flowers in my front yard, so I love them.
You can't kill those.
Yeah, I know they never die. So, but this flag is my spring, so it makes me happy. But this fabric is kind of a outdoor type canvas fabric, and so I didn't need anything heavier than the medium weights for this design, and that I liked because it kind of, if the wind blows or something and it kind of flips up the stabilizer, there's not that big white stabilizer hiding in there, so makes the back of the flag look really nice. And then the next one is our stable stick Tearaway. So this is a medium weight Tearaway that has that pressure sensitive adhesive coating on it. So when you roll it off, it will have that paper that when you hoop, you'll have to score it and remove that paper to reveal that it's sticky. And we use this on anything that's hard to hoop. So that would be collars, napkin corners, something that, if you tried to hoop it, the part of the project you wanted to embroider on would be outside the hoop. So, or something maybe small, like a collar, like a corner, a cuff, anything like that that's kind of difficult. You want to use it on woven fabrics, and of course, because it's a Tearaway. And then sometimes it helps if you have a fabric that's kind of slippery or wants to shift in the hoop. It makes it so it's easier to manage those. And the other thing is, if you're doing a project that requires multiple hoopings, it's nice because you can stick it to, maybe you're doing a table runner, you could have it down the entire table runner and not have to keep, every time you hoop that for that continuous border or project you're doing, you don't have to keep adding a new piece of stabilizer. Your project is completely stabilized before you start. And so here's just an example of a napkin. And so it kind of gives you an idea that if I were to have tried to hoop this napkin, that design would have not been able to get that close to the corner because that corner would have been outside of my hoop. And then these are an embroidery blank, and I've seen these in some dealers. So you can check with your dealer, see if they sell them. And I'm sure they're probably online. I don't remember where I personally got them, but they were in my blank stash. When I found this tiny garden design, it was like the perfect size, but they have kind of a Velcro. So the top where it goes over the top of your foot can come apart and lay flat. And that's what you put in the hoop. And so they're not that big of an area. There's really no hoop that would hoop these. So the Stable Stick Tearaway was, of course, the perfect answer because I could just, hoop it and then lay them down. They stuck down to it, and they're kind of like a velour. So I did use a topper on them as well. But they're just the right size for some of those cute little designs that we have. And so when we're talking about Stable Stick, we also have the Stable Stick template sheets, and those are different from the Stable Stick Tearaway stabilizer. These come in a package of 8.5 by 11 sheets. So that's the exact size you need to go through a printer. And so how they work is you would print your design out onto them, and I'll show you a little bit of an example of how I do that. But you're going to want to use this whenever you need to preview design placement. So it's really frustrating if you embroider a project and when you get it out of the hoop, you realize that it didn't land where you kind of thought it was going to land when you hooped it. And so you can print these out and put them on your project before you start. And that way you'll know where that design should go. And so if you can imagine, maybe you have a t-shirt that you want to embroider a design on that you're going to wear, and you wonder, okay, where do I put that on my chest, to make sure that it lands in, the right spot, that it's high enough or low enough. It's not, you don't want your kitty cat on your stomach or something because you went too low. Mm-hmm. But so you can put the template on it, and they're sticky, but they're not overly sticky. So you can reuse them. They're repositional, and then they're going to stay there on your project until you remove them. So you would put it on, figure out where you want your design to go, and then you would hoop it. And you can use, once it's hooped, you'll see where that design should be. You can either hoop it perfectly, using the marks on your hoop or the plastic grids that came with your hoop. Or if you have a machine that has a positioning system, you can use the positioning system to work with that to see where that design should go. So they're translucent. They're great for lining up quilting. I'll show you a little example of like continuous quilting. And then I'll show you an example of doing it in a multi-hooping project. So this is what it looks like when it's printed. So I printed the bear tracks. This is a quilting design. And you'll see on the quilting design, when it's printed, that there's a crosshair. And so I know where the center of the design is and where, the top and the bottom and all that information is. And you want to make sure you're printing at 1-to-1 ratio or 100% or, actual size, however your printer is set up, because this needs to be the exact size of the design. And so if you do this, one thing I have to mention is that you need some kind of software program that will open an embroidery design. And your computer doesn't come with that. So if you've ever tried to open an embroidery design and it kind of gives you an error, like it doesn't know how to open it, that's the problem. So if you don't have anything, you can talk to your dealer because there's some great editing programs out there that will do a lot. But if you just need something really quickly to print designs, I use Wilcom TrueSizer, and it's a free download off of the internet. So you can just go to Wilcom TrueSizer and download it, and then you can print embroidery designs and a couple other things. It'll resize designs, some real basic stuff, but it doesn't do a lot. So that's what I used, and I printed this, and then I kind of trim around it a little bit, but you can see that I've started a continuous quilting design. So how many of you want to quilt with your embroidery machines? This is going to be so helpful for you, because I printed my quilting design, and now I can go in and I can start lining them up and going along my my project. And when I finish one, I know exactly where the next one needs to line up so that I can get a perfect match that looks like it's done on a long arm. And then here's another example doing a multiple hooping project. So they've added the template sheets, and so they know once they stitch one letter, they know where to set their hoop up to stitch the next letter so that it'll line up perfectly with the previous one. So now let's talk about Hydro Stick. And we had a meeting today, and I was thinking about this morning, that it was mentioned in a company meeting today that we had, that this is really kind of an ignored stabilizer. And it is one of my most favorite stabilizers, because if you have something that you're like, this just doesn't work, I can't figure out, Hydro Stick is usually your answer. So those projects that you're like, there's got to be a way. So it's a medium tearaway, and what it has is a water activated adhesive. So instead of like Stable Stick, where it's a pressure sensitive, where you peel off paper, this one, when you hoop it, you actually have to get it wet in order to activate the adhesive. And so it's great for hard to hoop items. It does tear away very crisp, very clean. It's amazing. But when you think of those things like really bulky things, ball hats, something that you're worried if you use the Stable Stick tearaway, that it might pop off because it's bulky or heavy, this one will solve that problem for you. Because once the glue or the adhesive dries and your project is on there, the only way to move that project is to get the adhesive wet again and tear it out. So it's not going to move or pop off of shift if it weighs too much or is too bulky. So let's see some things. These are my daughter's shoes, and she wanted to have eyes on her feet. So she saw the eyeballs from Tula Pink, and so these shoes, they're heavy, and they would have been really difficult, but I was able to put the Hydro Stick on them, and that kept them stabilized and kept them from popping off of the stabilizer before I got them, before I was able to start the embroidery. So I didn't even have to do a basting stitch or anything. The Hydro Stick held them in place, the whole embroidery. And then here's another example. I used to have a home embroidery business, and one of the things that people would come is they would want me to embroider on grosgrain ribbon for their wedding or their cheerleaders or something. And I was thinking about this, and I honestly think that grosgrain ribbon is probably the most difficult fabric to embroider on that I've ever experienced. And you would not think that until you've done it. If you've ever tried to embroider, and so I went and watched all the tutorials on grosgrain ribbon, like how to embroider it. Every single one of them that I would watch, when it was done, even in their tutorial, it would be puckered. And I was like, I can't stand that. It looks horrible. So what I learned, though, from experience and testing out every stabilizer, every process, Hydro Stick is the answer, because those ridges can't shift or move because they're literally like glued to the stabilizer, and it holds them in place. So when you're done embroidering, you don't have all those like ripples and puckers that typically would happen. If you've ever watched a tutorial on embroidering grosgrain ribbon, you know that that even when they say this is the result and this is how you do it, and you're like, that's puckered. But I think they just gave up. So I was not that way. I never gave up until I could embroider ribbon with no puckers. But Hydro Stick is the answer. That's how you do it. And so last but not least, let's talk about our Ultra Clean and Tear family, because Ultra Clean and Tear, I would say, is probably what I use the most. It's really versatile, and I embroider a lot of towels and things like that. It's kind of the go-to for embroidery. So Ultra Clean and Tear comes in the regular it comes in a fusible, and it comes in a plus. And if you go all the way back to the beginning of the week on Monday, when we talked about the wash away stabilizers, I explained what that word plus meant. And so it still applies that that it will be a pressure sensitive adhesive stabilizer, but that adhesive is deactivated or water soluble. So when we talk about this, that means that if you get your item wet with Ultra Clean and Tear Plus, your stabilizer immediately becomes not sticky anymore. So Ultra Clean and Tear is a medium weight tearaway stabilizer, and it gives us good stabilization for our medium to high stitch count designs. We use it on woven fabrics and things like towels, anything when we don't want permanent backing. It tears away very easily, but when I talked about the other tearaways and that they tear away easily, they're a really crisp tear. This one has a like kind of a wash away kind of built into it. So when it tears away, you'll see some little fibers and things. But the cool thing about that is that if you don't tear away all of it, the rest, if it's exposed, will wash away. So I'm going to kind of explain that a little bit better because sometimes it's hard to understand. But this is what an awesome design, the Royal Bee monograms. And so when you look at this design, you'll see that we have a beehive and a bee and some flowers. We have a couple of bees in there. And those are all areas where if I want to use this and project and have it look nice, I need stabilizer in those areas for the life of this item. But then I have those open honeycomb areas. And those areas, I don't want stabilizer there all the time because it's going to show if someone looks at the back of it. I don't want people to see that stabilizer in those honeycomb areas. So the Ultra Clean and Tear was such a great option because what happens is when I wash this item, anything that's exposed will fall out because I was not about to go and try and tear out and risk damaging the stitches in the honeycomb. So I just threw this in the wash. So if you look here, and hopefully it shows up really well, but in those honeycomb areas, you can see that there's almost no stabilizer. This was washed one time. And the stabilizer that was inside the honeycomb areas, I did not tear out. The laundry took care of that for me. So I didn't risk damaging those stitches by trying to tear it myself. But the nice thing is that where the beehive is and where the bees are, the stabilizer is still under there supporting those. So it's going to keep that project looking nice. So that's the huge advantage of Ultra Clean and Tear products is that they give you stabilizer where you need it and it goes away very easily where you don't.
Yeah, and if anybody remembers way back, I think it was episode 8, when we did the tea towel apron, I talked a lot about the differences between the Stable Stick and the Ultra Clean and Tear Plus because, I wanted to see that. And I have a picture example, and I know, Kimberly, you're going to show us a little bit, a picture example of what the two look like when they wash. The Stable Stick is there until you take it out.
Yeah, Stable Stick is going to be there until you tear it away. But if you look here where those honeycombs are, there's no stabilizer in there. And I didn't tear it. The washing machine handled it for me, and I loved it.
Yep. So it's really just, just like everything, depends on your project and what, what outcome you want, what you want the back to look like, and if it's going to be laundered or not laundered.
Right, exactly. And so, but this was really a good design where, the fact that I used the Ultra Clean and Tear was so, it was so great that I had that product because it has two totally different types of design elements, a very lightweight versus very dense in the same design.
Yep. We had a quick question about whether this would be good for making flour instead of water soluble. And this is not a replacement at all for water soluble.
It is not a water soluble stabilizer. It will, so like I said, where those, that beehive, the bees and everything, if I were to remove those stitches, there is stabilizer in there. It's not washing away. And so it doesn't really wash away. I would say it more falls away. Just kind of through the laundry, it just kind of starts to disintegrate, I guess, and falls away. But where it's covered with stitches, it's in there. It will not dissolve in water.
Yep.
And then this is a new collection. I don't think it's even out yet. Is it, Carrie?
It is not. You've debuted it.
Yeah, so it's in Spray Club. So Spray Club members have it.
Yep.
So anyway, but this is one that I stitched up last night because I just wanted to have something that I could actually do a little demo on. So because we talked about the plus stabilizers and how they can go away if you get them, the stickiness goes away when you get them wet. And so using on a terry cloth towel like this is the perfect opportunity when that comes in handy, because one of the reasons that we sometimes don't want to use a sticky type stabilizer on terry cloth is that we run the risk when we go to remove it from the back, the adhesive will pull the loops of our towel. And so then you think, okay, what other options do I have? Because a lot of towels are really bulky. You don't want to hoop them because they don't fit in your hoop really well. So Ultra Clean and Tear Plus becomes a real magical thing here because it lets you have the advantage of that stickiness so that you can just lay your towel down on it, but then you don't have to worry about pulling the loops because you can just deactivate that sticky when you're done with moisture. So I'm going to turn my PowerPoint off and I'm going to show you. All right, so can you see me now?
I can, we can.
Okay, so here's this towel that I did. And so there it is. I'm going to turn it over and you can see. So that's why I stitched this out, because I wanted you to see it with the stabilizer. So it still has that Ultra Clean and Tear Plus on it. So I'm going to take so I have a spray bottle and I'm just going to spray it. And you don't have to do even a lot. So I just sprayed it. And now you can see that stabilizer, and if I spray it even a little bit more, it's like not even sticky anymore. It's just falling off. Give that. And I let it sit for a minute. And then it just like really just falls off. And and you can see here when I was talking about how it kind of goes away in the laundry. I mean, it's like trying to kind of disintegrate right in front of me.
Yeah, and you didn't have to like soak that. That was just a light misting.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just coming right off and kind of just disintegrating. So I think there's no way to really explain it until you see it in action. But the nice thing is when I'm done with this, where the bird is, that's all going to have stabilizer in it and support that design as, people come into my bathroom and use my towel. So anyway, that is our tearaways.
Wow, we did it.
We did it. We had a fun stabilizer week. This was really fun for me to kind of start to think about, because I use them a lot, but I kind of had to think about, okay, is there any other ideas that maybe I haven't never thought of before? So it was a fun week for me.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate it, Kimberly. It was super fun having you on this week. So thank you very much.
Oh, anytime.
All right. So I am now going to we're going to do something really fun next week. Tamara, if you're there in the background, get ready because it's your turn. Tamara is going to talk to us a little bit quickly about something fun that we have planned next week. So let's see if I can bring Tamara up. Kimberly, you're still there. Tamara, you got to say hi.
Okay. Hi. Can you see me?
Oh, there you are. We did it. Hi.
Okay, great. So now I'm going to share my screen and I hope it comes up on the right one. Well, first I'm going to start. Okay. Now.
No pressure, Tamara.
Let me share screen. Okay. And I want the screen and from beginning. I'm sorry. I should have done this before.
That's all right. Okay. We just like looking at you, watching you struggle a little bit.
This screen. Thank you. Okay. I do this project much easier. There, share. Okay.
Oh, you did it. Look at you.
Yay. All right. It's like I got to do 3 things at one time. Okay, now is it on the whole screen?
We got it.
Okay, great. So next week, we're going to do a really fun thing. We're going to have like a mini mystery project. And we're going to show you on Monday which blocks you need to do and how to make them. And it's real simple. It's done in the hoop. You don't have to worry about perfect points or any of that. It's really fun and simple, and you'll have a cool project by the end of the week. So we're going to use the Quilters building blocks, which is a new collection that came out
Wednesday.
Yes. Okay. I knew it was out, but recently. So go to scissortailstitches.com because this is a Scissortail Stitches collection. And you have all these cool blocks that you can do. And just so you're prepared, here are your fabric requirements. Now, you can use any fabrics you want, any colors you like. It's up to you. It's going to be kind of a mystery until we get to the end. But we'll have 2 fabrics that contrast and then a background fabric. And you need of the 2 contrasting fabrics, and you can even have those fabrics not match. Maybe you do all reds and all oranges or yellows or, whatever color. It could be scrappy, so you can use what you have. And you'll need 2 6-inch squares of fabrics A and B. Those are your contrasting fabrics, along with a 4.5-inch square. So 3 squares of fabric A and fabric B. And then for your background fabric, you need the same thing plus an additional 4.5-inch square. So 2 6-inch squares, 2 4.5-inch squares. So if you have trouble deciding what to do, just cut up a bunch. This is the minimum for the project. If you want to make more blocks, you can do that, and I'll show you eventually what that looks like. We're going to use polymesh fusible stabilizer and a hoop that will fit a 6 by 6-inch design. So if you can do 2 of those in a hoop, then you could do that, or 1 in a hoop. That'll tell you how much of the stabilizer you need.
Yes, and this goes without saying that you also need to purchase the collection.
Oh, of course. Yes, that's a given.
It
Yes.
seems sort of silly, but yeah.
Yes, sorry. That was confused. Not given to you, but a given. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm excited about Monday. Kelly and I have been working hard on this, and we're excited to have some fun and put a little mystery into our lives, which we're not getting a lot out right now. It's like the same thing every day. So
that is, thank you, Tamara. So I actually, and Tamara will send me this to me. She doesn't know it yet, but if you can send that slide just as a slide, we'll put that up on the Perfect Tips, or maybe Tamara can even do that for me, just so that you guys can see that without rewatching the whole video if you didn't catch that super quickly. So thank you very much, my friend.
Look forward to it. Thanks,
All right.
guys. Great job, Kimberly.
See ya. So really quick before we end, I just want to go over what we're doing next week. I know we just did a little bit with Tamara, but next week, great lineup as always. I can't believe we're about to start another week. This is our 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be our 5th week, which is just crazy that much time has passed, but well, it's been fun. So what are we going to do next week? Monday, we have the start of our embroider along with Tamara. Kelly will also be part of that. She's going to show you how you can create this mystery project using our Quilters building block collection. Tuesday, Tim will be back with us. You guys really enjoyed that presentation. I think that was 2 weeks ago. Tim will be talking about our brand new Squeeze the Day collection that we'll release on Tuesday. Really cool techniques. Tim is one of our wonderful artists. He's going to talk about that one. And then on Wednesday, Tamara and Kelly will be with us to talk about assembling the blocks that hopefully you're making along with us, and some layout options. Thursday, my friend Kay England will be with us. I am so excited about this. Kay England is, first of all, just a hilarious person. She's a prolific pattern designer and fabric designer, and she is the artist behind some of our most popular collections. Her most recent one is called Blackwood Cottage. It's beautiful. You will not want to miss this. Kay, if anybody's seen Kay's videos, I'm sure you'll vouch for us out there. She is a trip. And then on Friday, Kelly and Tamara will be back with us talking about the finishing touches for our Embroider Along project. So finishing options and what to do with that. So a full week, as always. Super duper excited about that. I hope you can join us. It's been such a blast to do this with you every day. I cannot wait to see you all next week. Hope you have a safe and healthy weekend. Happy stitching. We'll see you next week.